Welcome back to Ethical Point. Today's explainer is an absolute must if you're an aspiring civil servant. I'm going to be your mentor today as we deconstruct a highly relevant public service dilemma, specifically tailored for your UPSC Mains GS Paper 4. We are diving deep into the complexities of gender in public service because, let's be honest, understanding the friction between high-level philosophy, ethics, and the gritty, on-the-ground administrative reality, that is your bread and butter. So let's jump right into this actual 2024 UPSC GS4 question. On paper, our constitutional framework guarantees equal opportunity, right? This is what we call the ethics of justice. The rule book says everyone is perfectly equal. But the skeptic in you should immediately be asking, wait, how does that actually play out in the field? Well, the reality is way more complex. This question is asking us to identify the real on-the-ground challenges for female officers, and more importantly, how we fix them to uphold administrative probity. To help you craft that perfect, high-scoring 10-marker, here is our game plan for today. 1. Decoding the ethics question. 2. Gender hurdles in service. 3. Measures for institutional shift. 4. Ethics, probity, and integrity. And 5. GS4 answer writing tips. Okay, section 1. Decoding the ethics question. Beyond basic equality. We really need to get into the examiner's head here. They don't just want a laundry list of grievances. They are looking for a deep, ethical analysis. Here is the crucial takeaway. Bringing women into leadership isn't just a basic fairness issue. It is a structural necessity for good governance. Whenever we use a term like human capital, let's break it down to layman's terms. It simply refers to the collective skills, knowledge, and brainpower of your entire workforce. If systemic barriers are literally holding back half of your population from performing at their absolute peak, the entire administration suffers. It's an efficiency crisis and absolutely an integrity issue. Moving to Section 2, Gender Hurdles in Service, the Unseen Barriers. Let's diagnose the problem and look at the specific ethical terminology you absolutely must drop into your exam answers. First up, we have the double burden syndrome. Let's define this simply. It means working a grueling, high-stakes shift at your government office, only to go home and start a second, full-time, unpaid job of childcare, elder care, and managing the house. The primary responsibility for domestic care in India still overwhelmingly defaults to women. Think about the ethical friction here. How on earth can an officer maintain optimal administrative efficiency when society demands she juggle 2 full-time jobs at once? Apply that to real life, and the administrative friction points are glaring. Take the lack of spousal postings. This forces women to constantly choose between their family's unity and a crucial field posting, a dilemma male officers rarely face. Or imagine a hypothetical crisis scenario in a remote field office. You're ready to serve, but the office literally lacks basic infrastructure, like clean, separate washrooms or a safe way to get home after a late-night negotiation. These are not minor inconveniences, folks. They are physical and structural barriers to doing the job. And that brings us to the glass ceiling. In plain English, the glass ceiling is an invisible barrier. You can look up and see the top leadership roles, but an unwritten, entirely discriminatory wall stops you from breaking through. This ceiling is cemented by deep-seated patriarchal mindsets. It often shows up as implicit bias, like being constantly patronized or mansplained to in high-level meetings, which unfairly derails the progression of highly qualified officers. Because of this implicit bias, capable female officers are frequently boxed into what the system historically calls soft portfolios. Think social welfare or women in child development. Now, those are vital roles, but keeping women exclusively there excludes them from the gritty, decision-making field postings like home, police, or finance. This actively prevents them from demonstrating their crisis management skills, which tragically just reinforces the very stereotype that kept them out in the first place. Which leads us to a fascinating yet heavy term, the psychological tax. Simply put, this is the unseen mental and emotional exhaustion an officer pays every single day. It's the energy drained by constantly scanning for physical safety during night duties, or the massive mental toll of navigating subtle workplace harassment. It's a severe, invisible burden that quietly eats away at an officer's day-to-day efficiency and well-being. Let's move to Section 3, Measures for Institutional Shift, the strategic prescription. We've diagnosed the hurdles, now how do we solve them? This is where your exam answer turns into gold. Look at how perfectly this maps for your revision checklist. Challenge on the left, solution on the right. Interestingly, while the private sector corporate world struggles with these obstacles too, public sector bureaucracy can be much more rigid. So how do we fix it? Here is a quick mnemonic for your exams. Think SHI, safe spaces, hybrid policies, inclusive training. If safety is the issue, we build gender-neutral safe offices. If the double burden is the challenge, we implement spousal posting and hybrid hours. For implicit bias, mandatory sensitization workshops. But to actually enforce these solutions, we desperately need a gender audit. Let's define it. A gender audit isn't just corporate jargon. It's a mandatory, literal, institutional health checkup. It's a regular assessment with a checklist to ensure an office actually provides functioning creches, safe transportation, and hygienic sanitation. It forces equality out of the theoretical realm and into measurable, actionable steps. We also need a strong capacity-building pipeline. Step 1, formal mentorship programs where senior female officers guide juniors on navigating the unwritten biases of field administration. Step 2, specialized hard skills training in high-stakes crisis management and negotiation. It's this specific pipeline that ultimately shatters the soft portfolio stereotype and builds a resilient line of future leaders. Section 4, Ethics, Probity, and Integrity, Strengthening the Ecosystem. Let's directly connect these HR policies back to your GS Paper 4 core concepts. How do we make the entire ecosystem ethical? You cannot write an answer on this without mentioning the POSH Act and the Internal Complaints Committee, or the ICC. In layman's terms, POSH is the actual law that prevents workplace sexual harassment, and the ICC is the internal team within an office that acts as the judge to enforce it. These aren't just legal buzzwords, they are the absolute foundational shields needed to create a safe environment where honest, fearless work can actually happen. A truly ethical ecosystem has to be meritocratic. Performance must be the only currency for promotions, period. This requires clear codes of conduct that actively push inclusivity, alongside rock-solid whistleblower protections. Why? Because an officer needs to be able to report gender bias or harassment without the terror of retaliation destroying her career. Mix in smart technology to reduce physical field risks, and suddenly, you have a modern, highly secure administration. All right, Section 5, GS4 Answer Writing Tips, the value-add conclusion. Let's pull all these threads together into a framework you can literally copy-paste into your mains answer. Notice this powerful contrast. On the left, a bogged-down administration losing massive efficiency to systemic bias and that heavy psychological tax. But on the right, what happens when we apply the ethics of care? Unlike the strict ethics of justice that just looks at rules, the ethics of care values empathy, context, and human relationships. By optimizing your human capital through care-based policies, you create an inclusive state with unmatched probity. You aren't just solving a women's issue, you are fundamentally upgrading the entire machinery of governance. So I will leave you with this provocative thought to ponder, and it makes for an incredible conclusion template. Are we, as an institutional system, merely accommodating and tolerating women in public service? Or are we actively empowering them to reshape the very integrity of our governance? Keep that question in mind as you prep, keep applying these ethical frameworks to the news around you, and I'll catch you in the next explainer right here on Ethical Point.